Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 50 Shades of Tay. I am your host, Taylor Gonzalez, and I am thrilled to have my guest today, Dmitrious Bistrevsky, who you guys will know as the performance artist of Darth Vader on the Star Wars Disney Plus series, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Demetrius, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. How are you doing?
I am very happy to have you here. It's a great morning so far. This is just such a fun opportunity, and yeah, I am so appreciative of this.
Yeah, this is going to be a great time. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to hearing your awesome questions.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I had so much fun going through your IMDb page, by the way, when I was doing research for this, because not only were you Darth Vader in Obi-Wan, you were also in Captain Marvel, The Mandalorian, and then Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which we'll talk about for sure. That is so
hmm
cool that you got to do all these huge projects. How did you get your start in performing stunts?
so I don't perform stunts, not
Oh,
anymore.
well,
I haven't performed for about 5 years.
okay.
Uh, so basically, I was doing breakdancing, and a little bit of gymnastics and doing theater in Spokane, Washington, where I'm from. And at the time, I was looking for a fusion of these three mediums. I was falling in love with it, and I wanted it to become my career, and I didn't know what that career would be. But I wanted it to include storytelling, self-expression. I like the movement from breakdancing. I love the just the exploration, and then I also like the structure of gymnastics. And at the time, I didn't know what it was, and I wasn't completely confident in my acting ability. So I said, I know, I'll move to Los Angeles. I will get into stunts, kind of figure out the industry, navigate my way around the industry, and then I'll transition to acting. So that's kind of how I did. I moved to LA, though I immediately got recruited into circus school. So I kind of took a detour and just focused on circus full time, and I fell in love with circus. Absolutely fell in love with it. So I trained circus full time, and then I went auditioned for the best circus school in the world in Montreal, Canada. And then I got in, but my paperwork was wonky, so I ended up being stranded in Canada. And I auditioned and trained under Cirque du Soleil, and then later returned to Los Angeles and I did Pippin on Broadway and did a bunch of circus locally and touring. And then afterwards, I started kind of getting my way back into the industry, did a little bit of stunt work, and then transitioned to suit acting. So the majority of my credits are creature and suit acting, but it's cast half the time through the stunt department and the other half through casting. So half of my stunt credits are all creature suit credits.
Oh my gosh. That is such a cool story. I didn't know all of that. That is very cool. Oh, that
Thank
sounds
you, thank
like,
you.
yeah, such a interesting path to take because everyone that I talk to has a different path of how they get to where they are. And I think, yeah, doing the circus and then creature work, I don't know, that seems like the most fun job to me because when I watch, especially stuff like Star Wars, I love all the creatures, all the aliens, and just the way they're brought to life is so awesome and so much fun to see. So, speaking of Star Wars, for Darth Vader in Obi-Wan, how did that project come about for you?
It was the Force. It was
Perfect
a hundred
answer.
percent the Force. Um, I heard about it through the grapevine. So because I do suit acting and some people had known me already and I used to do stunts, my name was kind of floating around and a few people came up to me and said, "Hey, on the DL, there's this project coming out. It's super NDA. No one's supposed to know about it, but there's this character. It's an iconic character. Everyone knows it. It takes place in space, wears a suit of armor, fights with a sword." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I think I get what you're saying." But that was as much. The little birdies told me. And then I didn't know how to approach it or find out about casting or anything. So I'm a big believer in manifestation and just kind of putting your intentions forward. And if you put your intentions forward and put in the work, then magic somehow happens, the force. So I started training sword immediately when I found out. And that was like my way of like putting it out to the universe that I want to do this role. And then out of nowhere, about 2 months later, a stunt coordinator contacts me and he said, "Hey, I'm helping with casting for the show. We're looking for someone who's comfortable in a suit. You're a suit actor. It also has some stage combat. It fights with a sword. You wear a suit of armor. So it's a heavy suit of armor. You're primarily in a suit of armor, complete covered. It takes place in space." And I was like, "I think I know exactly what this is." And he said, "Okay, we shoot a quick audition on your iPhone of like some dialogue and some movement, and then send it to me, and I'll pass it to casting." I was like, "Okay, great." And because I had a hunch of what this was, I reached out to one of my friends, Bill Parker, is a VFX artist, and we had done a short film years ago called Jedi with the GoPro 2, where I played Darth Vader. And we had borrowed a screen accurate costume from David Baxter, who's a cosplayer and also one of the producers at Legion M, a fan-based production company. Yeah, so I reached out to him and I borrowed his suit and I got a screen iconic suit and I had my friend Bill Parker do all the visual effects for it and we together shot an audition tape. And we did a bunch of scenes from Rogue One. We did a bunch of different movements and we put it all together and I put my agent's information on it and I sent it out and then I heard crickets. I didn't hear a single thing and I was like, "Oh no, I wasn't supposed to know what the role was." And I
Oh,
was too on the nose. Like I wasn't supposed to know what it was, and I just like 1,000% put it out there. And I could have been wrong too. It could have been a different franchise. It could have been something else. And for me, I was just like, this is my one opportunity, and I'm going to shoot my shot. And then so 1 week goes by, 2 weeks goes by, 3 weeks goes by, and nothing. I don't hear a single thing. And I was like, oh man, I think I kicked the hornet's nest. I think I kind of was too loud in the beginning, and it kind of was off-putting. But I was like, okay, whatever. At least I shot my shot. When the opportunity came, I shot my shot. But it was also around holiday times. And then I get a call from my agent for an audition through Disney. Disney's casting some kind of show for a general undisclosed. And they gave me like a script. And I was reading the script and I was like, I think we're back. I think this is Darth Vader. So I shoot the first cast. This is during COVID time, so everything is self-tape. I shoot the first audition and then I get a call back. I shoot the second audition. Third audition, I already auditioned in a room. And then the fourth audition, I believe, was with the director, Deborah Chow, on the stunt coordinator, and everyone else. So I had done, and every time I'm doing this, I'm like, I think this is Darth Vader. But there was nothing in the script that says Darth Vader. It's just a general. They wanted to see a presence of power, watching him belittle somebody. And there was just, and I was like, the vibe feels like Darth Vader. So I'm going to play it like Darth Vader. And then I did the final Zoom audition with the director and everyone else. And at that time, I already felt like this was my role. I was like, this is me. This is 100% me. So I have this mug, this Darth Vader mug. And what I did was I put it in the frame during my Zoom audition, like right here. And it's this Darth Vader mug facing towards the camera. And they're like, do you know what you're auditioning for? And I'm like, yeah, I have no idea. And they're like, you're auditioning for Darth Vader. I was like, oh my God, that's so crazy. Look at what? Yeah, and and then after that, I had one more audition, and that was in person. I drove down to the studio, and they had me put on a loner costume, and they wanted to see how I walk. And this was the first thing out of the gate with working with Deborah Chow, and the first note I got specifically was that they were trying to do a specific type of walk. And that walk was that David Prowse had introduced this very power walk, aggressive, powerful Vader. But over the years, Vader has been updated through the animated series, through the video games, where he's more of a still master. He's like the presence of a master. Before he had the power, the aggression, and then he had the stillness. And they wanted to fuse the two together to create a new modern Vader, the one that everyone had known from what they've watched and read and introduced, as well as the very aggressive, powerful David Prowse, and to pay homage to David Prowse's performance. So I was doing the movement, and I've had this. So I stopped doing stunts years ago because I dislocated my knee, and it was a very, very bad dislocate, and it was something that was never supposed to heal properly. So I was never supposed to be able to run again or do martial arts or do acrobatics or anything. And I dislocated it 3 separate times. So afterwards, I had to stop doing stunts and had to focus more on things, on more being safe and taking care of my body and everything else. So that's what pushed me to transition to suit acting. I've done some small stunt stuff when I knew that I could do it, but for the most part, I've transitioned completely to acting and suit acting. So no one has ever seen my knee injury ever. Like I am really good at masking it. Like I used to have a slight limp. There was like scar tissue in my hip. It didn't quite track properly, but I was able to isolate it and go through auditions and do work without anyone ever noticing. But when I was walking for Deborah Chow, she was so attentive that she noticed that the box on my chest was doing like this little vibration, little wiggle. and she thought it was a costuming thing, and she was kept on asking costuming if we could attach it a different way or figure out a way to strap it so that it wouldn't wiggle. But I knew what it was every time my hip didn't pass through, there was a slight little jolt through my body and it would
Mhm.
make it wiggle. That's what she was seeing. She was seeing my hip injury, my knee injury. So I got through the audition, even though I was isolating my hips and making my hip grind through the socket
Mhm.
so I could do the walk without anyone noticing. And then immediately afterwards, I requested for a movement coach
Mhm.
so I could retrain my hips. And then I spent 5 months completely retraining the way my hips move, the way I normally walk, the way my body moves, because I had all these compensation patterns. And for me, and what I understood from Deborah and then from myself, Darth Vader had to be perfect, absolutely
Mhm.
perfect. So I worked with a movement coach for 5 months intimately with retraining my hips and then all of the body mechanics and creating together this perfect Darth Vader. And that's the on-screen Darth Vader that you saw.
Wow, that is incredible that you took so much time and effort to bring this character to life. Like people watching it on screen, they would never know this whole backstory. So thank you for sharing
No,
that with
no,
me.
no.
That's incredible to learn. And your portrayal of him was incredible. What was the collaboration process like between you and Hayden to bring Vader to life? Did you guys like train together? How did you guys bond, or what did you guys do to work together for Vader?
To be completely honest, I only met Hayden for 5 minutes
Oh, really?
on set. Yeah. So basically, I worked with a movement coach and I worked with Deborah Chow. And I got all my notes from Deborah Chow of how to develop my character and everything else. And I worked independently. So I in the beginning I had watched a lot of David Prowse's work,
Mhm.
and I had it down to science of the mechanics of at this point he does this thing, at this point he does this, and this is how he walks, this is how he turns, and I was creating the scaffolding of a character. And then I started filming myself, and I did not like any of it. I hated everything that I was doing because it looked like cosplay, and it's not to
Oh.
bash on cosplay.
Mhm.
It's just that the character has been portrayed so many times by
Right.
so many different people, by fans, by actors, by enthusiasts. So it's been done so many times that it's really easy to look flat.
Mhm.
And I hated my entire performance. This was maybe 3 months before we were filming. I hated absolutely everything I was doing, and I had this big freak out moment. And my big freak out moment was I'm going to ruin this role because I've also read about what has happened to other actors who have played
Mhm.
an iconic character, and the fans didn't like it, and they
Mhm.
get mauled. They get mauled by the fans,
Yeah.
no matter. And I was like, and at the time I was like really freaking out that I wasn't going to deliver to what the fans wanted. And I met up with my friend David Baxter, and he's like, in my mind, he's the ultimate Darth Vader specialist. He's the guy who I
Mhm.
borrowed the suit from. I couldn't tell him what the role was, so I told him I'm doing a fan film. I'm playing Darth Vader. I'm getting kind of stuck with the character because it doesn't feel authentic. And he saw right through it because he's an industry person. And he knew exactly what role I was doing and that it wasn't a fan film. But he said, Demetrius, my advice to you is I'm not going to give you advice. So this is your role. Anything I say will influence your mindset and will influence the character and maybe in a negative way. And this is your own journey and you have to find your character. He said, but what I can do is I could tell you about my personal experience with Star Wars, what it means to me, who this character is to me, and what it means to society because he had watched it as a kid in the movie theaters when it came out multiple times. And it was like a really cool eye-opening experience because I was culturally disconnected from it because I grew up as an immigrant and I wasn't introduced to pop culture. I was like in this Slavic Christian community, so I wasn't introduced to pop culture. I didn't really watch TV. I knew who Darth Vader was, but I didn't know how impactful it was. So he kind of explained to me just how big of a role it was to society and to everything else. And it was supposed to make me feel better, but actually it made me feel way, way, way worse. I started freaking out even more. And then I took a moment and I paused and realized that I was ahead of myself. And what I truly had to understand was Anakin, not Darth Vader, but Anakin. Because if you understand Anakin, then you can understand Darth Vader.
Mhm.
So I took a step back and I spent a month doing just character work for Anakin as if that was the role I was going to play, as if I'm
Mhm.
going to play Anakin. And the more I studied into Anakin, the more I understood that I was Anakin. I had so many different parallels between my own life of growing up as an immigrant, him growing up as a slave, being very poor, not having resources, understanding the competitiveness, the stubbornness, the
Mhm.
impulsiveness. Everything about Anakin was basically a reflection of my own choices in my own life. And then when I understood Anakin and the passion behind Anakin and the resolve behind Anakin, then I understood Darth Vader. And then I understood that I was Darth Vader, and that's when I found the character. And at that point, I was training 10 hours a day because my goal was, I was anticipating that I was going to ruin the role. I was anticipating that people were going to hate it and that I was going to get crucified. And my whole thing was, in the end, I'll be able to look fans in the eyes and say, that was my best.
Mhm.
I literally could not do a single thing more because I trained 10 hours a day. I would train until I collapsed every single day, didn't take a day off for like 6 months before we even started filming. Because I said, okay, I will do the best I possibly can. I come from the circus. We 10x everything. We're used to training all day. We're used to details. We're used to stretching. And we're used to intensity. So I brought that to the role. Yeah, and I worked primarily with Olga Sokolova, which was my movement coach. And we just kind of worked through, we did a lot of very interesting techniques. And then I was doing a lot of stuff independently in my character development. And part of it was I was meditating into rage every single day and using hyperventilation and meditation to get into rage and stay into rage and try to increase how far I could go into rage and then calm myself down. And I did this for months so that when I got on set, I could get it to peak rage and then calm down within a short amount of time. And then my earlier rehearsals with Deborah, I had a bunch of questions about, when he does the choke, is it 2 fingers? Is it 3? Like, how do you want the choke to be? Like, when he walks on the Devastator, do I want the hands behind the back like David Prowse does? And he said, no, Dmitrious, you're thinking about this wrong. You're not playing that character. That character doesn't even exist yet. You are playing the young, arrogant Vader. He said, you're playing an entirely different character. I want you to think of that character as like the old, tired Darth Vader. Think of it as the one who's already achieved everything he's ever wanted to achieve. He's done it all. You, on the other hand, have a chip on your shoulder. You have something to prove. You're still trying to declare to the world that you're a master and you're the best and you're the strongest. That Vader has already done that. You have not. So what I want you to do is when you do your choke, I want you to reach out and imagine that you grab their throats with your hands. And then I want you to feel their throat in your hand. And I want you to squeeze. And I want you to like it. And I said, okay, that's where we're going. Yeah, so I worked on the performance of Darth Vader. So I was the suit actor. So all of the Darth Vader suit stuff was me. And then Hayden was working on his own stuff because he was bringing back Anakin. And I was doing Darth Vader. And then later on, we really only met when we intersected on set, which was when we shot the cracked mask scene. And that was because I was leading up to it and then I was coming out of it. And he was the transition and the reveal of the cracked mask. So that was the only time we got to meet, but it was so hectic because we had actors and we're trying to film and everything else that I only really had about 5 minutes to talk to him.
No.
And that was my first, it was like already working on the project for like my own prep work for about 5.5 months, and then about 2.5 months of filming. So I was already about 8 months in, and that's when I met Hayden.
Oh, wow. Well, that is cool that you still got to meet him. And it's very interesting to hear the behind the scenes of who did what, because when you're watching it on screen, it all just goes together seamlessly. And it's just incredible to watch. But you had mentioned, so you had suited up as Vader before for a fan film, but how did it feel to suit up in the official suit and walk out on set for the first time?
So my first day on set was the street scene, the iconic street scene.
Okay.
So that was my first day on set. And to be completely honest, I mean, there was the excitement, of course, the excitement of putting on the suit. And it's not just excitement, there's also the pressure. And it's an interesting thing because when you're wearing the suit, there's this level of commanding presence and honor and respect that you automatically receive. So because everyone on set is a fan of Star Wars, the majority of the people are legitimate fans and everything. There was a lot of Lord Vader, people parting the ways for you to enter, that kind of thing. So you had this kind of, which added to the character of having the presence of Darth Vader. But also you had the pressure of Darth Vader, because Darth Vader is the most iconic character and villain in all of cinema history. Like people who may have never seen, like myself, who had never seen Star Wars growing up, you could show them a picture of Darth Vader and they'll know that they've seen it before, for kind of what it is.
Mhm.
So there was that aspect, but also it was just the feeling. I felt it first when we were doing my final audition, and I was walking with a PA, and as I was walking, he was saying, he's like, wow, the way the boots, the sound of the boots that it makes on the tile that you're walking is sending me shivers. And I was like, wow, that's the presence of Darth Vader. And there was, and literally, legitimately, you start believe. I believe in the Force. You start
Mhm.
believing in the Force because in the suit you don't have peripheral vision. I can't see far. Most of the time, the glasses, the eyes would fog over. You don't have a sense of touch because you're completely covered from head to toe. You because you have a helmet over your head, you really could only hear the echo of your own breath. It's like having like a fishbowl on your head. So legitimately, all I could hear is my own breathing. And with every step, so you're kind of in this, you feel like a tank in the suit of armor where nothing in the outside world can touch you, but you're bulletproof. But also, on the other hand, you can't touch anything in the outside world. You're completely isolated in your own universe within your own prison, which is also your armor.
Yeah, that seems, I don't know, like the way you're describing it seems so cool and so intense. And that's so cool though that you had people parting the way for you. And
Oh
I
no, no,
just,
people were awesome. Yeah,
yeah, that is
my
just,
set experience was beautiful.
I can't even imagine what that feels like. And yeah, as you mentioned, Darth Vader is the most iconic villain in cinema history because yeah, it's been generations and everyone instantly knows the sound of the breath. They know the look, the iconic look. And one of my favorite things about Star Wars is, and I feel like this is specific to Star Wars, there's merch for each character, but like stuff you wouldn't even think about. Like behind me, I don't know if you can really see it because it's black and it blends in, but I have a Darth Vader Lego alarm clock. So,
Oh, I wait, hold on one second. I have the same alarm clock.
do you
I
really?
think. I think I do. It was a gift given to me by a fan. I'm gonna quickly see if I have it.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. No way. Oh my God, that is so cool. Let me grab mine. That is so cool. Oh
You
my
have to reaching
gosh.
out to each other.
How cool is that? Yeah, I love Star Wars because you can find literally anything. There are Star Wars toothbrushes. I have a collection of Pez dispensers, literally everything
Wow.
you can imagine. At these conventions that you do and all these signings and appearances, what is like the most strange Darth Vader piece of like merch that you've signed or have seen?
I've signed some original posters and original books, and that has been crazy because of just how much history is in it and whose signatures are on it and how
Hmm.
careful you have to be. Because literally it's brittle. And I'm like, I don't want to mess this up. There's like the pressure because it's a work of art. It's a
Hmm.
work of history and a work of art. One of the coolest things I had was this guy made a chronological. So I was in London, and he made this chronological poster of the history of Star Wars in the timeline of Star Wars from every book, movie, TV show, game that ever was released.
Wow.
It was the whole lineage of Star Wars, and it was about 5 feet wide. It's
Dang.
huge, huge poster. And it was the one of the coolest gifts, but I didn't have a place for it. So then I wrote some philosophy on it and I signed it and I credited him on it and then I gifted it to a comic book shop in DC, which
That's
now
so
they have
cool.
it hanging in their comic book shop. Yeah. But that was one of the coolest things. But my favorite thing is always is the philosophy. It's not really the signing. I love meeting the fans,
Mhm.
but I like the fans who are a little bit beyond the surface level. There's always the cool stuff. There's the cool stuff that is Star Wars and Darth Vader, but I like the ones who go into the philosophy of the Force or who take time to learn how to use a saber.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
that those are the people who want to really experience the universe, like truly experience it at a deeper level, and that's really fun, and that's where I go.
Yeah, that is so true. But it's just crazy because I think every time I've seen it all, something will show up on like my recommended list, or I'll see something that I didn't even know existed for Star Wars. And it's just so cool, the creative, I don't know, merchandising that ties in with the franchise. Did you get to
Yeah,
keep anything from the set when you filmed the show?
no way, no way. I wish. No, the suit wasn't in such a big lockdown. There was no way I could ever take anything. I got a pair of socks.
Okay, there you go.
That's what I got. And then later on, a fan gifted me a lightsaber, a stunt lightsaber that was used in Obi-Wan Kenobi that they bought on the underground props market. So it is, I don't know how it happened, but somehow they acquired one of the lightsaber stunt lightsabers,
Oh my gosh.
and they managed to purchase it through this like underground prop market, and then it was gifted to me. So I
Oh,
have
that's
that,
pretty
but I
cool.
wasn't something that I received through the show. It was something I
Yeah.
received from a fan. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So speaking of Star Wars, you also did some work for Jedi Survivor, which those games are incredible. What did you do for the video game? And then also, what is the experience like of working on a video game versus working on a series or a movie?
Well, the video game is interesting because it's all motion capture. So you're using your imagination for everything. And I did the motion capture for the Ninth Sister. So there were people who did all the movement for Ninth Sister. What I did was I did all the cinematic cutscenes. So every time in game there's a cutscene and something is happening, I did the motion capture for that.
That is
And I was
so
working
cool.
with the voice actor. So she was doing the voice and I was doing the movement side by side, together playing the same character. Which is funny because that's exactly how we played Darth Vader too. I worked with a movement with a voice actor, Dorian Gregory, and he was
Okay.
the voice actor for Darth Vader. And then I was a suit actor. And our performance, because I couldn't really hear inside the headset, and because my it was muffled when I was in the helmet, and it's muffled when I speak, and also if I try to add rage, it shakes the helmet and takes away from the performance. So what we found was the best way was for me to focus on the details of the movement, and he did the voice performance. So he was in a sound booth and he was watching my performance through a monitor, and then I was listening to his performance through an earpiece, and I was listening to him and he was watching me, and it was super crazy because we had like this telekinetic connection, literally the force,
Mhm.
where I could anticipate his choices and he could anticipate my choices, and we were like dancing even though we're the entire differences of the studio. We were completely across the different room, and he's watching through a monitor, and I'm hearing through an earpiece. And I could hear that, like, whenever we would receive a performance note, he would receive the note because he was right next to Deborah Chow's, booth. So he would receive the note before I would, and I would hear the note through his performance, and I would adjust my performance to the note. So it was really this like beautiful symbiosis of like this dance that we were doing. Yeah, he was the voice actor, and then later on they took his performance and they used AI software, Respeecher, to make it sound like James Earl Jones.
Oh, that is so cool. Yeah, I love getting to hear the collaboration process between when it's a voice actor and a live action suit. Like, it's just so cool because, yeah, like I said earlier, watching it or playing it, you would never know, that it's two people working together, but hearing the behind the scenes, that's so cool that you had to collaborate like that. And it just seems like such a fun, creative process. And then speaking of
But
creative,
also wait to add to that, it shouldn't have worked. That's the crazy thing. Is like I don't know if you've ever had someone put an earpiece and try to be natural in real time.
no,
There's always a
never.
delay. There's always a delay with the words, and everything has to be synced perfectly. So we had this thing where we were so synced that you couldn't tell a difference. It was two people. You couldn't tell that the voice actor and the suit actor were in two different places. In fact, I could literally I could feel inside myself what he was going to do, and he could feel what I was going to do. It truly was like the Force, like we were linked together. And it's the first time I've had that kind of experience in this kind of setting. I've had it before, doing like partner acrobatics and circus, where you link up with someone and you could kind of read their thoughts almost through their micro breaths, the way they engage their muscles, everything. You could truly communicate with someone without talking.
Oh,
But it was the
wow.
first time I'd experienced that through a performance like that, through an earpiece and everything. Yeah, it was really cool.
Oh, that is awesome. Speaking of creative endeavors, I know you have a couple of upcoming projects that you wanted to talk about. And if you just wouldn't mind, those cards you were showing off right before we started filming, those
Yeah.
look so cool. I'll put you full screen so you could talk about it.
Okay. So this is what I've been doing since Darth Vader. I've done a couple acting bits, but after I finished the role, I wasn't too excited about acting. Like it wasn't as passionate as it was before. And I started working on passion projects. And one of my before I used to coach gymnastics and I used to coach youth circus, and then later I coached elite athletes. And my specialty was gamification because I train 10 hours a day, so you have to make it fun You have to make the suffering fun. So I created this game called Fit Chain. And what Fit Chain is, it's a dueling conditioning game, fitness game, where you play with another person and it has all the essential conditioning to be good at any sport. So if you want to be good at wrestling, if you want to be good at basketball, if you want to be good at gymnastics, dance, martial arts, whatever sport you do, this is the general full body conditioning that will help. And it's done in a gamified setting where you're trying to make the other person work out. Both people are trying to make each other work out. And you create these cards, and the cards are color coordinated, and there's exercises, and then there's power cards. But basically, there's like arch up three. There's different exercises, and you play against each other, creating this chain. And when a person can't play a card, he has to do all the exercises in the chain. And
That's
there's a bunch of
awesome.
different power cards. Yeah, it's played. It's really fast. It's kind of like war, but it's a really fun way to condition because you play for 25 minutes and you don't realize how many push-ups you've done, how many core conditioning exercises you've done. And then to make it better, I made the game scale. So the original game has 3 levels.
Mhm.
It has a beginner level where anyone from any fitness level could begin. Then it has the regular level. Then it has an advanced version that introduces more plyometrics and more explosiveness. And then because even after I made that, I was showing the prototype to some of my circus friends, and they called me out for making it too easy because
Oh, dang.
we're elite circus, like Cirque du Soleil level.
Mhm.
So they were like, it's too easy. And I said, okay, I'll make you a game. And then I made the elite version. So the elite version is the fourth version of the game. So the first game has 3 versions, and once the 3 versions become easy, there's an elite version which is for elite athletes. Like I'm talking NFL, Cirque du Soleil, the elite of the elite, whatever elite one. And it works a lot on cross patterns through the body, one single leg explosiveness, and a lot of these fundamental exercises that make you really good at anything. So basically, by playing a game, you automatically become better at whatever sport you do. So it's going through publishing right now. It's about a month away from my first batch, and it's kind of a slow burn as I'm introducing it and learning the ropes of everything. But it's been my passion project for the last year. But here, I'll let you read. I don't know. Is it inverted? Can you read the warning label?
Let me see. I'll put you full screen again. It's hard to focus on it, but warning, excessive play may lead to increased stamina, strength, agility. Leveling up can be addictive and may enhance your athletic ability. That is so cool. That seems like such a fun uh, idea. I love it. And then I know you're also teaching some master classes coming up at a convention if you wanted to speak about those really quick.
Yeah. So I'm doing 2 conventions coming up. In the start of June, I'm going to be in Spokane, Washington, doing Lilac City Comic Con. But the one I'm really excited about is I'm going to Rebel Scum Con in Dallas, Texas. It's going to be the end of June. It's June 28th, 29th, and 30th. And what I'm doing is since playing Darth Vader, so I had this thing where I really wanted to do some of the sword fighting for Darth Vader. And the stunt coordinator had promised me that I was going to be put into training, and same with both of my movement coaches had said to be put into training because I wanted it for my character development because I felt that if I'm playing Darth Vader, I should at least know how to use the sword a little bit. And they didn't want to train me because they already had a stunt double who was going to do it. And they said it just makes more sense to have one person focus only on the acting, one person focusing only on the stunts and the fighting. But I was really hurt by it, especially because at the time I was doing character development.
Mhm.
And for me, I was so far in the headspace of Anakin. So when they told me I couldn't train sword, they told Anakin he couldn't become a master.
Yeah.
And at the time I was training so much, so I started training sword 3 hours a day.
Mhm.
Just even though I wasn't doing the fighting, even though I wasn't doing anything, I was overlapping a little bit, but I started training 3 hours a day as part of my character development, so I could understand what it means to be a master. And I had trained under grandmasters in circus, like legitimate grandmasters who devoted 70 years for their craft. And for me, the word master isn't something that you throw around lightly.
Mhm.
I've been in the presence of many masters. I traveled the world to take workshops under the best in the world in certain disciplines. So at that moment, I said, I'm going to become a sword master. And when we finished filming, I continued training sword, but I upped my training to 5 hours a day. And I trained 5 hours a day for like almost 2 years since we filmed. And in that process, I've now become a sword master, but I've also created my own style, a specific style in sword. And I've been putting together workshops. So I have my first workshop will be on the first day is movement meditation. It's to teach people how to tap into the flow state,
Oh, nice.
essentially to tap into the force.
Mhm.
So the force, we call it the zone or the flow state. And there's a way to do it through movement and breath. So I create a simplified version where anyone could enter the flow state. anyone could experience what the Force feels like. And that's the first day. The second day, I'm teaching understanding the Force through sword techniques, through
Oh,
saber
nice.
spinning. So basically, it's the deep, deep, deep philosophical aspects and truths of the Force explained through sword technique. So because it's a proof to show you that the Force is real. And this is a master class that I've been working on for about a year and a half. And it's my first time debuting all three master classes in one place. And
Ooh,
then the final
nice.
master class is going to be advanced dual wielding, and it's going to be creating learning new mechanics within sword spinning that people haven't seen before. And I think it's with inclusivity, I think it's important to tap into both spectrums.
Mm.
So when I used to go to circus festivals, there reached a point where I became too good to receive training. So you go to a festival, and because the majority of the people are beginner level, I have to be on the back. You know, it's still fun and I still have a good time, but usually you get the least amount of attention after you reach a certain level. So I said, okay, I made the other two workshops for everybody. My last workshop is only for the elite sword wielders, the people who took the time to learn their basics, who truly want to expand their mind and sword and see what's possible. That's what my last workshop is for. It's advanced. The prerequisite is you have to already dual wield. You should be able to spin with two hands
Mm.
comfortably, and that's the prerequisite. That's where we start. And from there, we were going to build into very advanced sword techniques. So I have these three big master classes. It's the first time I'm teaching all three in the same space. And it's going to be really fun because each day we're devoting to a different master class. So not only do you get to meet me and other Star Wars actors and we get to hang out, but also you get to truly learn something at a very technical level.
Mm.
So I'm taking all of my elite training from Cirque du Soleil, from circus, from coaching, and I'm putting it into this topic. So that's what I'm excited about.
Oh, that is so cool. That sounds like an incredible opportunity. I wish I could go. That sounds like so much fun. Demetrius, it has been an honor talking with you and getting to hear all about bringing Darth Vader to life. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and it was very nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me. I had a great time.
Oh, me too. I really appreciate it. Nice meeting you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye.